New. Round 1, fight! Hadouken! 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 Round 1, fight! Blanca. Round 1, fight! Iger! 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 Dial. Round 1, fight! Yoga fire! Sonic boom! Yoga! Yoga fire! Yoga! Sonic boom! Yoga! Sonic boom! Yoga fire! Yoga! Yoga flame! One. Round 1, fight! Hadouken! 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 Kunlu. Round 1, fight! Zangia. Round 1, fight! Sonic boom! Sonic boom! Sonic boom! Falcon. Round 1, fight! Yoga! Yoga! Boom! Yoga! Sonic boom! Sonic boom! Sonic boom! Sonic boom! Sonic boom! Yoga! Sonic boom! Yoga! Fire! Yoga! Fire! Yoga! Money. Round 1, fight. Hot. Round 1, fight. Bang long. Round 1, fight. DJ. Round 1, fight. Bison. Round 1, fight. Dialogue. Round 1, fight. Sagat. Round 1, fight. Uppercut. Vega. Round 1, fight. Round 1, fight! Sonic Boom! Sonic Boom! Sonic Boom! Hadouken! Hadouken! Hadouken!